Hello Chocoholics, it's a very dull Tuesday but the perfect day for me to teach you how to taste chocolate. But we're going to have to be quick because somewhere in my office is Herodotus the cat and he wants to try and steal the things that I have brought with me. So for this, do not touch that. Hero, no. So for this experiment you will need a glass of water and a slice of bread. Ideally, I would suggest plain wafer because this will be your palate cleanser, but I'm assuming you don't have wafer in the house. Let's just work with what you've got in the house. Don't make any special trips. And then for a glass of water, not too cold, none of this flavoured stuff. This is plain water. But ideally, I'd say if you can face going for a cup of hot water with some cold in it, I would. Because the problem with a glass of very cold water is it will lower the temperature of your mouth. And we're going to be tasting chocolate, and of course chocolate, a really good chocolate, should have lots of cocoa butter in it, and cocoa butter melts at body temperature, and you want it to melt around your mouth nicely. So a glass of water, and if you can face it, cup of warm water rather than, and definitely not ice cold. So Herodotus wants to join us. Herodotus, say hello. This is Herodotus. Hero for short. He's not allowed chocolate. Never, ever, ever give chocolate to a cat. First of all, it's a waste. Also, it's poisonous. Ditto dogs and horses. It's the theobromine, but that's another story. So, I want you to take your glass of water and your slice of white bread. If you have recently eaten, if you've eaten in the last 15 minutes, if you've eaten anything with very strong tastes, if you've had a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or you've smoked a cigarette, you really need to leave this a little bit longer. Maybe wait another 15 minutes and then try this experiment. So I want you to first of all completely cleanse your palate with a mouthful of your bread and some water. Take your time, clear the decks, turn the music off, just focus on what you're doing. Bring your mind into the chocolate zone. Now, I want you to get your chocolate ready to taste, but I want you to make sure that you haven't smelt it first, and this is a very important part of this experiment. Make sure that you don't even get a whiff of this chocolate. I mean, if you bought it 3 days ago and you had a smell of it then, that's fine, but right now, I don't want you to get a whiff of it. And for this experiment, you could try something with super high cocoa content if you want to, or this is Cadbury's dark milk. It doesn't have to be a dark chocolate for this experiment, but I would say not white chocolate, and I'll come on to why later on. So pick a milk chocolate or a dark chocolate, but something with a good high cocoa content if you can get it. But really, whatever you've got in the house is fine. Always take a piece of chocolate, and I'm not going to do this now because I can't do this and talk at the same time. And without getting a whiff of that chocolate, I want you to hold your nose. And while you're holding your nose, and properly, fully hold your nose, it's going to be most undignified, but it's worth it. You're going to have to breathe through your mouth for this, but, you know, we're all in lockdown. No one can see you. Just have fun. So hold your nose, take a piece of this chocolate, go for a smaller square for this experiment, because, you know, you're going to have to be breathing through your mouth. Hold your nose, put the piece of chocolate on your mouth, let it melt around your mouth. Oh, hello. Herodotus has come back. Let that chocolate melt around your mouth, and I want you to really think about the sweetness. If there's a little bit of bitterness there, notice that as well. Notice what it feels like on your mouth. You're still holding your nose, and once you feel like your whole tongue is coated, and if you've drunk ice cold water, this is going to take longer because it's not going to melt as easily. Give it plenty of time to coat your tongue, have a little think about the sweetness, and then when you're ready and it's got your full attention, let go of your nose, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose and mouth as well. And then you're suddenly going to get a hit of chocolate, and that's probably going to be the biggest chocolate hit you've had in your life. Oh, no, you cannot have my experimental bread. You cannot have my experimental bread. That's for the experiment. It's chocolate tasting. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you have never tasted chocolate. Seriously, you've never tasted chocolate. And that's because chocolate doesn't have a taste. It has flavour. And a really, really good book on this one, which I have in my magnificently large chocolate history archive, is, it's great having your own library. Oh, I always wanted one. We have this book, Hidden Persuaders in Cocoa and Chocolate. This is like the book for pros on this subject. And it has a very, very handy tasting wheel on it, so you can work out what you're tasting. And taste, it's usually broken down into 5: umami, salty, bitter, sweet and sour. Those are the tastes that your tongue picks up. Flavours come from somewhere else entirely. Flavours like fruity flavours and spices and floral notes and roasted notes and nutty notes, they're not coming from your tongue. They're not coming from your tongue at all. They're coming from your olfactory sense. That's right, you've got another sense you didn't know about. This is separate to smell. So there's your sense of smell, your sense of taste, and then there's your olfactory sense, which is a combination of the two working together. And it's different depending on whether you're breathing out through your nose or in through your nose. In through your nose and mouth is your orthonasal sense. As you breathe out through your nose and mouth, that's your retronasal sense. So wine tasters, they'll have a glass of wine, maybe while pinching their nose. And then once they've swallowed it down, let go of their nose and breathe out through their nose and mouth to get that retronasal sense of the flavour of that wine. It's a completely different sense. Love it. But there's another sense, and I have to check the book for this one because I'm so bad at pronunciation. Trigeminal. That's it. Trigeminal. You have a trigeminal nerve. Did you know you had a trigeminal nerve? Did you know you had a trigeminal sense? Well, you kind of did and you kind of didn't. So think of chili and menthol. That's not really a taste, is it? There's a way of removing the flavour of chili from chili and just leaving you with an oil with the heat in it. Your trigeminal nerve, it picks up on the heat of chili, it picks up on what we perceive as that cold sense that you get from menthol. Also pungent and astringent. And you might be thinking, well, chocolate, astringent? If you have that really, really dark, 100% dark cocoa, which I love, 100% dark chocolate, but it's an acquired taste because it sets off that trigeminal. It sets off your trigeminal nerve. It's astringent. So chocolate and chocolate tasting is the absolute perfect way to start to discover some of these senses, and I'll take you through them more some other time, but for the moment just get used to tasting chocolate for the first time. Cleanse your palate with some plain white bread, but don't make a special trip to the shops. This is not essential. Just work with what you have. Cleanse your palate with some white bread, glass of water, if you can face it, cup of hot water, that's going to be better. Not tea, not coffee, not anything sweet, just water. Hello, Herodotus. No, not for Kitty. And whichever chocolate you happen to have in the house, and maybe try 3 of them. A great experiment, if you happen to have them in the house, or if you can do a trade with a neighbour while safely social distancing and disinfecting everything, is if you get the 85% dark chocolate from Lindt, then the 85% dark from Green and Blacks, and then 85% dark from Aldi, which is Mosa Roth, and you compare those 3, you'll notice some differences in astringency, in mouthfeel, in flavour, even though they're really all 85% dark chocolate. And my favourite at the moment, this is my favourite dark chocolate at the moment, is Godiva. And this is 90% dark cocoa, but you would never know it. So, do try all the chocolates in your house. Try them all. But from now on, I want you to do it while holding your nose. Melt it all around your mouth. Have a think about how sweet is it? How bitter is it? What's the mouthfeel? Can you really taste all of that cocoa fat and those cocoa flavours? Or can you just taste sugar and bitter? And then, once it's all melted around your mouth, and your cat has left you alone, then let go of your nose. Big breath in through your nose and mouth, big breath out. Really think about those flavours. What can you taste? Is it sweet? Or is it more than sweet? Is it floral? Is it fruity? Is it nutty? Is it grainy? Is it malty? Is it buttery? What can you taste? And how are all the chocolates different? The reason I've said to do this with milk chocolate or dark chocolate, but not white chocolate, is because white chocolate is lovely, but it's just cocoa fat and cocoa fat and sugar and vanilla and milk. But the cocoa fat, the cocoa butter, doesn't have quite the same flavours, and so I want you to start this. I want you to start this with something that's really cocoa-y, so you can get used to those cocoa flavours first, and then once you've become a chocolate tasting expert, then of course you can try the white chocolate. Chocolate is made up of extract of the cocoa bean, basically. Cocoa beans are fermented, roasted, their husks are taken off, and then once their husks have been taken off, they're ground down, and then the cocoa fat, the naturally occurring fat, what we call cocoa butter, is expressed out of the cocoa bean. It's pressed out and separated out, and usually when you make a chocolate bar, you've got some of the ground down cocoa mass, and then some extra cocoa fat added in, and some sugar and some vanilla and some extra things. Whereas white chocolate is just that fat, the cocoa butter, none of the cocoa mass, none of the cocoa powder, none of the dark stuff, and then some milk powder and some sugar. And some white chocolate doesn't even contain the cocoa butter. It's just kind of a soya fat and sugar. That's the kind I love when I'm having a really, really bad day. Those are the ones you get like snowies and jazzies, you know, like the little drops with hundreds of thousands on. Oh my goodness, they're my guilty pleasure. They're just made of factory floor sweepings, and I love them. Now I have to go and give some attention to the cat, because it appears he can't live without me, except when I want him. And then, of course, he's nowhere to be found. So enjoy your chocolate and let me know how you go with your chocolate tasting. I'll be back with answers to any of your chocolate questions, because let's face it, I have possibly got the biggest chocolate history library in the whole of the lockdown. So I'm here to answer your chocolate questions. Okay, bye chocoholics.